Hi everyone, welcome back. Melissa here with Bee and Cozy Stitching, and this time I have a really fun project for us called Forget-Me-Nots. Now a forget-me-not is a beautiful, delicate blue flower with a yellow center, and it grows on long, tall, hairy stems, sometimes even getting up to 2 feet tall. And legend has it that a man died while trying to pick these beautiful flowers for his lover along the riverbank, only to be swept away in front of her. His last words echoed in the wind, "Forget me not." And while today might not be as exciting as having our lover swept away in front of us, I will teach you how to sweep away some more of those scraps from your fabric bins. So let's head on over to the workshop and I'll show you what you're going to need to make these adorable forget-me-not blocks. Okay, so now that you've seen our really cute little forget-me-not project, it's time to start making some flowers. And we've got to have a few supplies on hand in order to do that. And so what we're going to need is an assortment of blue fabrics to make our flowers. Now remember, we can do these in 2 different sizes, so it really doesn't matter what scraps you take out of the bin, just so that you have a pretty good assortment of colors. So you want an assortment of blues that you can use for the flower petals, and then you want an assortment of greens that you can use for the leaves. You're going to need some kind of background. Now, I've chosen to, because I'm not quite sure if I'm just going to try and make one color work or if I'm going to blend 2 and give myself some interest. I'll figure that out as I go along, whatever looks good. And then you need some flower centers. And I've chosen yellow for my flower centers, hoping that that's going to be a really nice combination with the blue. Okay, so let's clear the work table. You've seen what we need for fabrics, and let me clear the work table and then we'll go ahead and get started cutting the pieces and parts that we need to make this project. Okay, so I've got the table cleared off, and as you can see, I've got the yellow set up for our centers. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and square off one end, so that we've got a nice cut side to begin with. And then we're going to cut one strip in 1.5 inches. And then we're going to cut one strip at 1 inch. And for right now, that's where we're going to leave the yellow. If we need more, we can come back, because remember, we're doing this scrappy, so we're not sure how many flowers we want to make. We're not sure what we want to come up with, so we're just going to leave it at that for that point. So now for the background print, we're going to cut a 2-inch strip, and we're going to cut a 1.5-inch strip. And this side over here is pretty good, so I don't think I'm going to recut it. I think I'll go ahead and use that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut, well, I think I'm going to cut anyway. We're going to get this side lined up so that it looks good. And then we're going to cut a 2-inch Ooh, that could have been dangerous. A 2-inch strip, and then we're going to cut a 1.5-inch strip. And from there, we're going to subcut these into the blocks that we need to make our project. So I think I'm just going to start with one color and see where it goes from there. If I need more, I can grab more. And now from our assorted blues, we're going to cut 3-inch and, oops, I better not cut that one. I'll be mad at myself. We're going to cut some 3-inch and we're going to cut some 2-inch strips. So because I don't know what I want to make yet or how I want to lay it out, I'm going to cut a 3-inch strip and set that aside. I'm going to cut a 2-inch strip and set that aside. And this little bitty piece I'll put back in the scrap bin because that isn't going to do us any good. So I'm going to go through my blues here. That's a really good way to tell if you're cross grain or straight of grain, is to go ahead and tug on that fabric. If it stretches to one side, then you know you are on cross grain. And if it doesn't have much give, then you know you're on your straight of grain. It's hard to tell with scraps which side is which side is going to give you less stretching when you're sewing. So that's my little test so that I can see. And I really like this print, so I'm going to go ahead and cut another 3-inch. Can I get a 2-inch out of there? No, I'm just shy. So we'll go ahead and put that back in the scrap bin. Now this one, boy, this one's not giving me much. But I sure did like the design on the fabric, and I thought it would give some really nice texture. So we're going to give it a whirl and see what we can come up with. We're only going to have one, so hopefully that's enough to make a block. If not, it'll go back in the scrap bin. It'll make something else some other time. All right, so we'll go ahead and get this one cleaned up. I thought this one would be really pretty, kind of modeled, look like leaves. Kind of a nice little, nice fabric, nice texture for our flowers. So we'll take that off. I never worry too much about the scraps because I reuse them anyway, and I have a bucket that I keep everything in when I'm sewing. And then when I get done with those, I either collage them. Well, I collage them a couple different ways, I guess is what I'm trying to say, for a couple different uses, and we can travel into that at a later date. I'm going to cut a couple of these because I have a couple of these, and because I don't know, how big is my finished project that I want to do. Do I want to keep making flowers? Do I only want to make a couple and quit and incorporate those couple flowers in something else? Usually when I do that, I make a strip long enough that if I'm doing my Scrappy Strips quilt, and if you haven't seen that one, I'll put a link down below so that you can see how we do that one. But then I'll make this, because I'm trying something new, I'll make that to insert into that quilt. And it comes out really, really nice. And that way I just have to do a few. I don't have to do a whole bunch of them. And, that way I can try all kinds of different techniques. And I don't have to feel so committed into making a great big quilt. And I just like that method a lot. And it gives me such a great finish. And as you can see, yes, my pieces are really wonky, but right now I'm just cutting strips. So I'm not really worried about wonky right now. Oh, look at that. Perfect. What a perfect scrap. Okay, so there's our 2-inch one. Now I have another little wonky scrap. I liked it. I thought it would make cute flower petals, but they're from a different project. So isn't that the fun about batiks? You never know which side is the right side and which side is the wrong side. But I know I need a 3-inch square. Oh, I can get one out of there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll cut 3-inch squares right from the get-go because we know we need them. And then those scraps can go back in the scrap bin. So we'll just cut all of these. So don't be afraid to use your wonky pieces out of the scrap box, because they might have just enough fabric for you to do your project. Never be afraid to use scraps. Scraps are wonderful. Remember, scraps are best. We love scraps. We are really strange today. But you know, if you don't use up those scraps, then they create these great big piles in your sewing room, and then it starts to look messy and disorganized, and then we don't like our creative spaces. So let's face it, if you're going to collect them, you have to use them. And hopefully, if you keep watching our channel, we'll show you lots and lots of ways to go ahead and use up those scraps, because those are my very most favorite thing in the whole wide world to work with. I just love scraps. And yeah, I'm overshooting so that I can clean it up, because I only have one good edge on this piece. But that's okay. And the little tiny pieces, like I said, they can go in the collage bin, and it won't matter. All will be well. Sorry, trying to do this so that you guys can see it and doing it upside down. Sometimes cutting's a little more difficult than I thought it was. Or than it should be. I'm not sure which. Okay. We're just about there. We just have some leaves to do after we get these done, and then we are all set, my friends. Boy, this really is a wonky one. I don't know if I like this block or not. That is an ugly 3-inch square, let me tell you, folks. But have no fear. There it is. Okay. One more. Oh, there's one more. Don't forget me. Remember, forget-me-nots. That's what we're making today. Forget-me-nots. So forget not the fabric. Okay, so that was a really bad joke. Sorry. Oh, I'm so excited. The weather's getting so much nicer outside now, and I just love the warmer days. Sunshine. Everybody gets outside. Their moods get improved. You get a huge dose of vitamin D. It's lovely. Just absolutely lovely. Okay, so that takes care of that little lovely pile. It'll be interesting to see which flowers we end up keeping and which ones we end up kicking away. Okay, so now we need a 1.5 inch strip of our really dark green. And more than likely that's going to end up being our stems. But you never know. We might change our mind and put it somewhere else, but usually the darker colors make really good stems, so we'll try that. See if we like it. Remember, they're scraps. If we don't like it, we kick it out, put it back in the scrap bin. We'll use it for something else. So, a 1.5 inch strip and a 1.5 inch strip. Okay. Oh, that worked out so perfect. We might just get to actually use up some of these scraps after all. Look at all the little leftovers. Wow. Okay, so then we need to cut some 2.5 inch strips, some 3.5 inch strips. Yep, 2.5 and 3.5. Sorry, I had to consult my notes there. I didn't want to tell you the wrong thing. Remember, I'm looking upside down so we can keep on track. This is going to have the edge straightened out. Okay. So, and I'm probably going to cut way more than we need. And you might have way more than you need. 1, 2, 3.5. I'll give you an exact, so that you know exactly what. But for right now, we're just going to cut up so that we've got a pile of things to work with. We're going to weed some things out, and then we'll end up with a finished. I think that's enough of that green. I don't think I want too much saturation of that green. I like my greens to have variety, and you want to have different colors, textures, shades. You want to give it some more interest, especially when you're doing little projects like we're doing here today. Okay, that's only 3, so this one's only going to make a 2.5-inch strip, and it needs to have the edge cleaned off. We're not going to get away from that. So that cleans off one edge, and then we'll come back here and we'll put in our 2.5. Oh, we got a really pretty nice strip left over. And then, oh, this is a bigger one, so we'll do some 3.5s out of this one. And what's in this one? Nope, not big enough. Okay, so that's where we're kind of sitting. This is where I have my little pile of we're going to try me outs. Whatever looks good, we're going to keep. Whatever doesn't look good, we're going to get rid of. I know I want the center, so I'm good with that. But the different blues and the different greens, and we'll put together a combination and see what that all looks like. Now we're going to go into subcutting these into squares. So you're going to need, respectively, whatever the strip is that you cut, that's the square you're going to make. So if this is a 2.5-inch or a 2-inch, you're going to cut a 2-inch square out of there and get as many squares out as you can. And I'm not going to make you come along for this ride because that's going to get really boring for you. These are 3.5, so of course... Well, now hold off on the greens because the greens are going to have to be rectangles. So maybe we'll do the greens together. But the blues, those can be cut. The yellows can be cut. These are squares. These are squares. Hang on to the background fabric. So for right now, to get caught up with me, if you go ahead and cut up your blues and your yellows into squares, then we'll meet back here and we'll do the background and the green together. Okay, sound good. So I'll see you in just a little bit, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so from this point, you should have your 1.5-inch yellow, your 1-inch yellow. Oh, I know they're tiny, but bear with me. It'll be okay, I promise. Then we've got our 1.5-inch background squares, our 2-inch background squares, our 3-inch blue for the flowers, and our 2-inch blue for the flowers. And I have some green stacked up here. Now this is the 2.5-inch strips that we cut. These 2.5-inch strips need to be cut into 5.5-inch rectangles. So it's going to be 2.5 by 5.5. And I know this is kind of strange for you guys, but if you keep watching all the way through to the end, I'll tell you exactly what you need to make each individual flower. And then you can go from there. So we need, oops, wrong way. We need 2.5 by 5.5-inch rectangles. Okay, so we'll just stack those up there. Okay. That one's gonna have to be recut because it's just not big enough. Okay, so there's those. I might have to cut another 2.5-inch strip of this one because I don't have very many, but we'll see how it goes. Now remember, whenever we're doing a scrappy project, we always cut more than we need, and that way the things we really don't like, we can kick them out. And we don't have to keep them in our project. Okay, so now let's see. The 1.5-inch strips, they need to be 3.5-inch rectangles. So we can pile these up. I got a nice edge on that one. I won't have to clean it up. Can you guys see what I'm doing? Yeah, okay. We'll put this one here. So we've got 1.5, and then we're going to cut them 3.5. And oh boy, we're running out of space here to put everything. All right. There's that one. And then there's just one left that we have to do. And this one is going to be 3.5-inch squares. So let's go ahead and clean this end up. So our 3.5-inch strip, that's going to be 3.5-inch squares that you're going to need to cut. And then when you have all those pieces cut, we're going to meet over at the sewing table, and we'll go through and lay out a block for you so you can see how all the pieces and the parts fit together. And then we'll sew those together, and we'll be on our way. And you guys can come up with some really creative, wonderful ideas for this challenge. I'm excited to see what everybody made. The Inchies challenge was fantastic. We have our winners. They're posted on our Facebook page. I'm so excited. Thanks to all the ladies that participated in the Inchies challenge. Love it. Love your projects. Love the creativity. You guys are phenomenal. Just absolutely phenomenal. So it'll be fun to see what you guys come up with for your Forget-Me-Not challenge. Okay, boy, that one had kind of a wonky piece, so we're not going to get as many as I thought out of there. But that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I'm going to move these green ones up here because now that they're cut, we really don't need to see them. And then we'll go through and cut this 3.5, and we'll be on our merry way. So go ahead and finish cutting up your greens now, and when you get done with that, then we'll meet over at the sewing table, and I'll show you how we put our very first block together, how we lay it all out, and we'll go from there. Okay, so now we're back at the sewing table, and we're going to start to put together our flowers. Please forgive me that my background is white and my background fabric is lighter, so it might be kind of hard for you to see this part. But we have a 3-inch blue fabric square, which is going to become one of our petals. We have a 2-inch background square that's going to become obviously our background. And what we need to do now is we need to take this background square, and any ruler will do, so as long as you can get from one edge to the next, you're going to place that ruler on top from diagonally from one corner to the next corner, and then I'd like you to draw a mark. Now obviously you're going to use a pencil or something lighter or what have you. I'm going for dark. I want you guys to be able to see it. I want you to see what we're doing, and I want to tell you about this phenomenal. It's the gel roller for fabric by Pentel. And no, I don't get any money or kickbacks for telling you about this, but it rolls across fabric so nice and easy. So if you're doing labels or you're marking or for whatever reason that you want to draw on fabric, these are the pens to have. They are phenomenal. Okay, so once you have that line drawn on there in the top corner of your block, whichever you decide is going to be your top left, on the top left, you're going to sew from corner to corner. Now, what I like to do is sew just outside of the drawn line that I've made, so that when I fold that, or excuse me, just inside the dark line, so that when I fold it up, this fabric can meet all the way to the corner, and I maintain my shape and size of my block. So when you're stitching, sew just to the inside of the line that you have drawn, and then it should work out perfect for you too. Now the other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure you've got a new nice sharp needle in your sewing machine, size 10, 11, 12. Any of those are going to work just fine for the piecing that we're going to do. The other thing you might want to do is bring down your stitch length to a 1.8. You want your stitches to be smaller because we're working with smaller fabrics and we're going to be cutting things apart, and you just don't want them to unravel once you have them sewn. So those are the two setups for the sewing machine. Otherwise, it's just a matter of sewing from corner to corner, again, just inside your drawn line, so that when you press your fabric up over the seam that you've just made, it'll actually go all the way to the corner, and it'll give you a nice finished block. So that's our next step, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I hope you guys can see this okay. See how I'm just sewing to the inside of that line? Just a needle's width away, that's all. You don't have to make a big seam, just a needle's width away. Okay, so, and hopefully with those dark lines you guys can see well. Then when we fold up, see how we've got that nice perfect shape? And then it's up to you whether you want to cut away from behind or not. If you're cutting away these fabrics from behind, you're going to go 1/4 of an inch beyond your stitch line and then cut. I like to take the inside layer out and leave the back layer so that I can keep my true size when I'm stitching. Because remember, we need this to be a 3-inch square all the way around when we're done. Okay, so then when you get this done, I need you to do it 4 more times. So go ahead and do the same process 4 more times, and then we'll meet right back here. Okay, so we're back over at the cutting table. We've completed making our flower petals, and we've got those all put together. Now there's one last thing we have to put together, and that's our leaves. And so what we're going to do with our leaves is we're going to take our 3.5-inch square, and then we're going to take our 2-inch background square, and we're going to layer that into the corner. And again, just like our flower petals, we're going to go from corner to corner, draw your line, and then stitch on that line. Then we're going to add the other background square to the opposite corner, and we're going to go sew on the diagonal from corner to corner, so that when we flip those open after they're sewn, this is what we get. So it's the same exact process as doing the flower petals. The only difference is we're using background squares on each corner versus using the little yellow squares on the corners to make the flower petals. So once you get this completed, then, and you're going to wonder why I've got all these little blocks laid out, and I'm going to tell you in just a minute here. So we'll put that there. Okay, then the only thing left is to do the rectangle. And again, same thing, your rectangle, and you're going to put your squares on opposite corners. You're going to sew from the diagonal. When you get that stitched into place, you're going to flip that up. So again, it's exactly the same as your flower petals, except you're using a 2.5 by 5.5 inch rectangle and a 1.5 inch background square in each opposite corners. Okay, so then once you get those put together, you take this stem piece, which is your 1.5 by 3.5, and you're going to go ahead and sew that to this leaf right along here, 1/4 inch seam. That becomes a unit. And once we're done with that, then what we need to do is, if you look at our block, here's that leaf, here's that stem, that unit we just created. Now we're just going to add a small flower to the end. And our long leaf, the 2.5 by 5.5, we're going to add that to the large flower unit. And then once we have each of these units sewn together, then we're going to stitch 1/4 inch, sew them across, and combine it so it becomes one block. Okay, so I'll go through it one more time because I want to make sure that you get this. Now, you're going to take your leaf unit and your stem unit. You're going to sew those together. It doesn't matter which side that you sew it onto, because then you're going to sew the flower on the other side of the stem, and it's okay to turn it around or have these opposite, or however you want to do that. If you look at my samples over here, can you see that okay? I've got my flower over here and my flower over here. So it doesn't matter which side of the stem that you sew it onto. As a matter of fact, the more that you vary it, the more interesting it becomes. So don't worry. Don't get caught up in the rules. There are no rules. Okay, so once you've sewn your stem to your leaf, then you're going to sew on the small flower. Then on the opposite side, you're going to take your large leaf and you're going to sew the flower to the large leaf, and that creates a subunit. So then you've got 2 subunits, and then you're going to sew these together. Now, again, it doesn't matter which side you sew it to, because you're going to end up changing the configuration as you go along anyway to create more interest. So don't get hung up in it. It doesn't matter. It's very freeing, very freeing. Okay, so here is our block finished. Here's another sample of our block finished. And I told you I would give you the specific information per block. So let me get the confusing parts out of here, because we don't need those. And what we do need is for you to be able to see all this. Okay? So in order to make one block, you will need 4 3-inch squares of blue. You will need 4 1.5-inch squares of yellow. You will need 4 2-inch squares of background. This makes one large flower. Okay, then for the smaller flower, you need 4 2-inch blue squares. You need 4 1.5-inch background squares, and you need 4 1-inch squares. Now that's going to give you this small flower right here. You will need 1 stem, which is 1.5 by 3.5, which is right here. You will need 1 leaf that's 3.5 inches with 2 2-inch background squares. You will need 1 leaf that is 2.5 by 5.5, and you will need 2 1.5-inch background squares, and that will give you this part right here. These are all the pieces you need to make one block. I really hope you'll give this a try. I hope you've enjoyed this little project. I hope that your lover doesn't get swept away by all the beautiful little forget-me-nots that you're going to make out of your scrap bins when you sweep through there and clear out your scrap bins. I appreciate your coming in today. I hope you've enjoyed this project. Remember, if you like this project, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so we can keep bringing you these awesome, cute little projects that help you manage your scrap piles and have a little fun during your day and learn a quirky fact or two along the way. That's all I've got for today. I appreciate it. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.